one thing I wanted to get to with you two gentlemen, being former pros, obviously. You have experience from the professional level. You know a lot of guys who have played in the NFL. You have from teammates from Wisconsin. I want to get to something because the state of the running backs has been a hot topic in the NFL sphere this past few weeks. And we had Melvin Gordon on, actually, last week from Wilde and Tausch. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this audio. And Melvin Gordon was asked about the state of the running back position because, well, as we know, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, two guys who are now going to hold out for training camp because they could not get a long-term deal settled. They didn't want to sign the franchise tag. They didn't want to necessarily agree to a 10, 12, I think it was $10 million was what the franchise tag number was at. And Melvin Gordon joined Wilde and Tausch, and he was asked about that. And as a free agent himself, a guy who's been around the position, this is what he had to say in regard to the state of the running back position in the NFL.
At this point in time, we're the ones that's getting filtered out. We making the same as long snappers and kickers, and it's just like, really? Like, it's just it's sad, man. You got, and it really sucks because you got college students making more than guys in the league.
And he's talking about college students making more than guys in the league. And Chris, we'll start with you because I feel like you got quite an opinion on this regard.
For sure.
But as for what he's saying, these guys aren't getting paid. They want to reset the value. They want to reset the market. And these NFL GMs are not budging. And as for the Packers, too, they have a couple decisions to make, too. But in general with the NFL, is this going to be a major problem for the foreseeable future? What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think so. Like, even if you just go by the numbers, over the past few years, the number one offense in the league, I know many people believe that it's Kansas City, at least for the regular season. Many people believe that it was Kansas City, but I know a couple years ago it was the Baltimore Ravens. And why were they the number one offense in the league? Because they had the number one rushing offense in the league. And who are the number one rushers on teams most likely? The running back. That's their number one job. The Indianapolis Colts, there's a statistic that if Jonathan Taylor didn't rush for 100 yards in his first 2 years as an Indianapolis Colt, they didn't win a game. They didn't win a game if he didn't rush for 100 yards. So you tell me about the value of this position to a team, but also, like, people don't understand, like, the running back position has grown so much. Like, they're an extension of the pass game. They're obviously the runners. They're responsible in the pass pro for protecting the quarterback. It's not only just O-linemen. They're better pass protectors than tight ends. They're better pass protectors than fullbacks. People need to understand their value and how important they are to teams. But, the other thing, like, they've changed even how people scout the linebacker position. Like, literally, they've changed it because of how good of receivers they are. Now people want their linebackers to run. And what is football doing? It's going in a cycle. You see this year, teams are running the ball so much more. They're just doing it in different ways. Just because they're not lining up in the I formation and running lead and power all day with 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends, just because that's not happening doesn't mean that people aren't running the ball. Play action is involved in every extension of the run. RPO is just play action. It's just play action. That's all it is. It's play action out of the gun. Literally, you need to establish a run game. You need a running back that actually threatens the defense in order for that to work.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get that if people think that these guys aren't subpar running backs. Like, literally, we're talking about the best of the best. We're talking about the elite backs wanting to get paid their value. Aaron Jones is making $12 million a year. How long ago was his deal made?
Yeah, a couple years ago. It was after 2020, I think. He was signed that 4-year, $48 million contract. He's making $12 a year, and that was considered a discount then. And now he's near the top of the league in annual salary.
Which is ridiculous. Which is ridiculous. Like, think about the importance of Saquon Barkley to the Giants. Think about the importance of Christian McCaffrey to the Panthers. I know when I was in Carolina, he was all we had. He was literally all we had.
You were in the locker room, yeah.
If Christian had an amazing game, we won the game. If not, we lost. And we went 5-12.
And Bradley, you have a different position on this because you're a specialist. And it's sort of like he's speaking from a linebacker. A linebacker's a position that sort of has a lot of connections with the running back. As a specialist, as a guy who's sort of not in with the offense all the time, does he have a basis to this? Or is the running back becoming sort of like an obsolete position to pay? Is it replaceable, as they say? What are your thoughts on the whole matter with that?
Well, first of all, I'll forgive Melvin for the specialist comment. I will forgive him for that. He has not asked
didn't even talk about that.
He has not asked for forgiveness.
He threw a shot. That was a
Brad
Nortman.
I will forgive him for that. That was unnecessary, Melvin. But I know what you're trying to say. That's number one. Number two. Look, I can understand running backs' frustration, right? There are very few players on the field that take that kind of beating. The problem is that's the same reason why they're being devalued. Because you look at it and you say, okay, if we're an NFL GM and we're looking at a team, I totally agree with what you're saying, Chris. A stout running game is very important to have. I would love to punish a team. If you can remove the running game, make a team one-dimensional,
easy.
They totally lose a lot of components to make really good offenses, right? Even the Kansas City Chiefs, when we look at it and say, okay, dynamic passing game, best quarterback in the league, very creative play calling, it's still set up by the run. And they've had some really good running backs. And now, but the problem is you can look at that and say, okay, Pachenko, though, 7th-round draft pick, we got a rookie that can get it done. So the rest of the league looks at it and says, is my dollars invested in a high-value running back going to be something that's going to pay off in wins and losses throughout the whole year and in the Super Bowl? So I think that's the hard part, right, is you're not paying just for this year, because we can all agree running back is important and having a stout running game is important for this season. But when you're talking about 3, 4, 5-year deals,
it's a big commitment.
In a big commitment in something that will go down in value, right? I mean, even the best running back that takes care of themselves the best, just the physicality of it, the demand, they're going to go down in value. And we can see how quickly it happened. Yeah. I feel like Ezekiel Elliott was like the best running back in the league for a number of years.
They ran him into the ground.
Overnight, it seems like he lost a step. So it happens all over the place, and the Cowboys had a good plan. Right? They saw that, and these teams, that's why I don't feel bad for the Giants. I don't feel bad for the Raiders. If this is your plan, if you look at it and say, this is not the composition of our roster, we're not going to give a running back 10, 12, 13 million, then you need to draft a guy in the 3rd round, the 4th round, or 5th round, I think Pollard was, I forget, and have a plan for that, right? The Packers sort of did that with Aaron Jones. And then one other small comment. From a player's perspective, I'm a big, big believer. It is not your job to reset the market. It is your job to get you paid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I believe that that is what Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley should have done. If they looked at it objectively and said, this isn't enough for me personally, God bless you and stand to your guns. But it is not your job to reset the market. It is not your job to set a contract for anyone else. You need to get paid, and you're putting your body on the line. So if they offered him $10, $12 million with $25 million guaranteed, and you said no to that, boy, I hope you said no for the right reasons, because it's your job to get paid, and they deserve to be paid.
That's Brad Nortman. I'm Colin Russo, sitting here with Chris Orr as well, 2 former Badgers at Great Dane Pub and Brewery in Fitchburg. Terrific Thursday afternoon as we talk the state of the running back position in the NFL. And Bradley, I liked your point about don't reset the market. Don't feel obligated to change things because the GMs think differently. They don't think like the player here. And you're saying, like, the GMs are not going to budge. And it seems that the NFL, there's an unwritten agreement between these GMs that they're not going to budge. Dalvin Cook is a free agent. These guys are – Melvin Gordon is a free agent. These guys, the GMs are not going to budge. And I don't think the running backs want to budge right now either. So it's a stalemate. It's a stalemate at the moment.
Can I tell you who played this smart?
Who's that?
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones played
it smart.
Signing that 4-year, $48 million.
You only get a certain window as a running back. Shoot, for any NFL player, right, Chris?
Yeah.
So your window is short. You need to make sure you maximize it. You need to make sure you stay on a roster. And you need to make sure that you are valued on your team and you are valued by getting paid. So he looked at it and said, I'm not going to do better. Look at Le'Veon Bell. When Le'Veon Bell sat out for the full season, he was a top 3 back, if not the best back.
And he's the blueprint on what not to do.
He was never the same.
Never the same.
Yeah. So you're totally right. These GMs are sticking to their guns. And Chris, they're the ones who hold the power.
And for what, Chris, you said, you were talking about these guys are the game breakers. These guys control the tempo of the offense. As a rebuttal to that, here's what I will say to you.
Let me hear it, brother.
Josh Jacobs, a guy who led the league in rushing last year, he had 300. He was on a prove-it year. This is when the GMs don't pay him. They're like, all right, prove it to us that you want to get re-signed.
Yep.
What'd they do? They ran him about 300 times. He led the league in rushing. They won 6 games. So, sure, he had a terrific year statistically. He didn't. His production did not reflect in the team's success.
But this is my thing. This is what the NFL is about. Number one, you need an elite quarterback. No matter what, you need an elite quarterback.
Yes.
No matter what other pieces you have.
That's the position on the field everybody
That's
needs.
the position on the field everybody needs. My thing is, if you take some of these elite backs off of these teams, they're horrible. If you take Christian McCaffrey off of the 49ers, who are they?
Christian McCaffrey, I'm not sure if that's fair because Christian they made it to a Super Bowl without him.
Okay. But tell me, but they also had and people are probably going to be shocked by this answer.
Yeah.
They had Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah. It was a good.
He's a legit quarterback.
Yeah.
He's a legit quarterback.
Absolutely. And they have a great coach. Kyle
And they
Shanahan.
have a great coach. That's the other thing that people are forgetting. Like, coaches are important as well. Like, just because you have an elite back and you say, oh, we're going to give him the ball 30 times and you think that that's just going to get you to win, that's not the case. With Kyle Shanahan and then you add an elite runner, you see who they were before an elite runner. They were good. It's like, oh, their run game's good. They can do some great things. But then you put an elite runner on their team. Now they go to the NFC Championship game with a third-string quarterback. With literally a third-string quarterback. Literally unheard of. Unheard of. They're in the NFC Championship with a third-string quarterback.
And McCaffrey was great.
Because they added an elite runner.
So, Brad, go ahead.
Can I have one small segue to this?
Absolutely.
They're talking about not getting paid, right? We heard that some of the final offers for Jacobs and Barkley will in the range of $10 million.
A little over
million.
12. I think Barkley was around 12.
Okay, that would make him the fourth highest paid player on the team. Fourth. Okay, that's not nothing. He's not the 15th. And look, we could debate, is he the best player on the team?
He's definitely one of the more talented, but in terms of...
But he's still top 5 on the team. They're not disrespecting him by saying, you know what, you deserve to be the 10th. And it's the same thing with the Raiders. He would have been like the 6th. Now, I get it. They're selling jerseys. They're the face of the franchise, all that kind of stuff. But it's not a total disrespect. I'm sorry, but that's still a lot of money, and you're still top 5 on your team.
It's not a total disrespect. My thing is just more so like, this is my thing. I think you deserve to get paid based off your value to that team. I don't think it's necessarily about your value in the league. So what is my value to your team?
That's where it gets tricky.
To your organization.
Do the Raiders find Josh Jacobs' value that important? I think the Packers did. I think that's why the Packers gave him $48 million, and Aaron Jones was able to coordinate a relatively team-friendly deal that he was able to get paid with. He's very important to the Packers. He's a vital piece of the offense. Josh Jacobs, sure, a guy who probably wants $14 to $15 million a year, a guy who's good enough to get $14 or $15 million a year, but doesn't necessarily translate to the value and production that the Raiders need in terms of wins. Saquon's on a different stance. They're a playoff team. They need him.
But my thing with the Raiders specifically, their issue was defense.
Yeah.
Their issue wasn't offense. They were putting points up.
Yeah.
They won the games they won because of shootouts.
Well, they had a good offense. Yeah.
Exactly. They literally won because of shootouts. And why did they have a good offense? What is Josh McDaniels' philosophy? Run the ball, play action pass. You only have that with a dynamic runner with an elite run game, which Josh Jacobs provided. Going back to the Colts with JT, Chris Ballard need to pay him now. He's another UW alum. Look
out for your own,
anybody should get paid, JT has the best chance. But literally that stat of him not rushing for 100 yards and you don't win a game, there's no other value. There's nobody more valuable to your organization than him.
And there's a level of a principle that GMs are trying to prove here. These players go to them with their agents and they're like, hey, I want $15 million a year for 4 years, and I want 2.5, 3 years of it guaranteed. Those GMs are like, I don't know where you're going to be in a year from now. 300 carries later, like you said, these guys take beatings in the games, perhaps more than anybody else on the team.
Yeah.
Where are you going to be physically in a year? Ezekiel Elliott is a great example of that. They paid Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry's still really good. That guy's a bulldozer compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
But why do they take those beatings? They take these beatings because they're on teams without elite quarterbacks.
That's a level of the importance of the running back position to the professional team. As we'd agree, it's a major problem for these running backs. Yeah. And if it's a CBA issue, they can't touch it until 2030. They just established this new CBA. Yeah. So in terms of what you actually need to do, you got a lot to worry about if you're a running back in terms of getting paid.
You know, I wonder if you've got high schoolers, maybe even young college kids looking at this that have NFL aspirations and say, I'm not going to be a running back. Put me in at slot. I'm going to go play wide receiver. I'm going to go play corner because they're getting rewarded.
And then what is that going to do to the game of football?
It's going to change.
What will that do to the game of football for high school guys, college guys? Braylon Allen's a guy to bring up. We got more audio from Melvin Gordon as we react to the state of the running back position. But Melvin Gordon also said something interesting about that. They asked him, they said, if you were to do it again, if you had a kid that was going to play football, what would you tell him to do? We're going to get into that and more next on the Great Dane Huddle in Fitchburg.